let's get into this. So this is huge. It's an unprecedented lawsuit where the CEO of Amazon, Andy Jassy, is being sued for union busting. According to a complaint that was filed on Wednesday by the NLRB, the National Labor Relations Board, Amazon CEO Andy Jassy violated labor law in 2 interviews he gave this year where he discussed his stance on unions at Amazon. Now, keep in mind, it's very possible that people who work at Amazon were listening and tuning into these interviews. Some more details. Jassy's comments were made after workers in Staten Island voted to organize in April with the Amazon labor union, the first warehouse of the e-commerce giant to do so. This year, the NLRB has repeatedly found Amazon to have violated workers' rights during a handful of unionization campaigns. The first interview cited by the NLRB took place April 14th when Jassy told Andrew Ross Sorkin of CNBC's The Squawk Box that employees who are represented by a union would be less empowered in the workplace, making it more difficult for them to have direct relationships with management and making things much slower and much more bureaucratic. That was followed by a June 8th interview during the Bloomberg Tech Summit when Jassy said employees were better off without a union. He also echoed his CNBC comments about relationships with managers and the speed of work. So the Amazon labor union is very happy with this decision to move forward with the lawsuit. Labor attorney Seth Goldstein, who filed the charge on behalf of the union, said these plutocrats will no longer threaten workers in interviews with the media. They are being held accountable. Kelly Nantel, who is a spokesperson for Amazon, said the allegations were without merit and that Jassy's comments are protected by the NLRB, National Labor Relations Act, and decades of NLRB precedent. Amazon has repeatedly defended its actions and has said that it believes a direct relationship with employees are better for workers. That is just classic union busting language being used there. I mean, they're telling their workers you don't need a union. That's absurd. You can't make that decision for the workers as the company. Clearly your motivation there is that you don't want a union at that company. Some more details. Under the Biden administration, the NLRB has taken a more aggressive approach to cracking down on employers who interfere with workers' unionization efforts. Amazon will now have the opportunity to settle with the Amazon labor union or take the case before an administrative law judge. That's going to be over in Seattle. The NLRB is requesting that Amazon mail and email workers a notice about their labor rights. So let's also be mindful that Jeff Bezos owns the Washington Post, which is the source for this story. So we are in the situation where we have an Amazon company that is huge. It's a monopoly. It's probably the most powerful company in the entire world. And Jeff Bezos, who is the owner and founder of Amazon, also owns a significant portion of the press and gets a lot of information. This is a very scary situation, and this lawsuit is setting a precedent that maybe no one should have all of that power, and someone like Andy Jassy using his platform at CEO to tell workers what is best for them when he clearly has interests that are not the same interests of the workers. If you want to be paid well and you want to have a living wage and have a meaningful life, laboring and doing calisthenics for 12 to 14 hours a day, I'm not sure is that. And they've taken away benefits and they've taken away raises for the Amazon employees. So it's just absurd he's even making these comments. Ravana, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I always find it laughable when large corporations like Amazon make statements about how much they care about their workers and they don't want them to unionize because they care about them so much. Because at the end of the day, Amazon is a corporation and it needs to make money for its shareholders. They want to cut costs at every corner, and that includes when it comes to the wages for their workers, the conditions for their workers, their benefits. Also the statement that workers want direct relationships with their managers. I would love for that CEO to tell that to a worker who got a text at 2 a.m. from their boss on their day off telling them they need to come in right now, or harassing calls. I'm working with a client right now who's suing for discrimination, but her employer was calling her at 3 a.m, driving to her house to pick her up to make her come into work on her off days because they were short. Nobody wants a more direct relationship with their manager. They don't want their managers to have such direct control over their lives. It's better to have a union that's able to do that negotiating and to protect you, because the workers, when they're not bargaining collectively, are significantly less powerful than the large corporations that can, basically control every aspect of their lives. That's where you're getting your money from. That's how you pay your rent. You don't want to go against the company. You have that fear. It's always there. It's coercive inherently.
Yeah, I was on a phone call with Seth Goldstein, who's the lawyer responsible for this case, and he was feeling optimistic a few weeks ago about the lawsuits that they had against Amazon with the NLRB. And what they're asking for, I think, to mediate this and correct this is really important, to notify all of the Amazon workers what their labor rights are. And I think maybe an email or a piece of mail doesn't suffice. I think having a Zoom meeting with all of those workers, this is a kind of mediation tactic that the NLRB has taken before, a meeting with all of the workers about harassment in the workplace to mediate ongoing harassment. Letting workers know what their rights are and that they can join a union and not be retaliated against for doing so is huge. I was at the warehouse in San Marino Valley the other weekend, talking to a worker, signing them up with the union. And they said to me, how do I know I won't get fired for this? How do I know I won't get suspended for this? And I said, that's illegal. It would be illegal for Amazon to do that. That's against the law. They cannot punish you for trying to join the union. This is not well known among most warehouse workers at Amazon, and people are afraid to be retaliated against. And we can't have a situation where union elections are lost because of illegal union busting over and over and over again. So if the NLRB doesn't, push this in the right direction, that's going to be a really bad mark on the record of Biden, who is spreading this message that he's a very pro-labor president. He's running the administration in this way. Marty Walsh, who a lot of people are praising as being a great leader in labor. I really think they need to put some pressure on the NLRB to do the right thing here.
Yeah, absolutely. I would just say that at-will employment has been just devastating to the workers, and educating them on their rights is so fundamentally important because they're up against corporations who can invest millions and millions of dollars into spreading misinformation about the dangers of unions.
Yeah, we're lucky to have you on when we talk about this with some background in the law and fighting for workers.